Thank you very much. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks to Dale. I apologize for having to request that we go out of order here today. I suspect I owe a bigger apology to the brain trust that just got completed, because I didn't show up there at all today, and I apologize for that as well. But let me say a couple of things to you. You're going to hear from my colleague from South Carolina, Harold Mitchell, in a few minutes, and so he will talk to you about things that are very, I think, productive and informative for you to hear. But I want to thank Dale for reinforcing a lot of what we've been trying to do with the brain trusts that I started when I became chair of the CBC some 8 years ago. But I want to talk to you just for a few minutes in broader terms. One of the things that I have found out, and it didn't come clear to me when I've had my first significant introduction to this condition until I began to work here in the United States Congress. Now, I don't need to tell you all that our country is teetering on catastrophe. I don't have to tell you that. A lot of people say, well, how do we know exactly what the numbers are? Well, we don't know exactly what the numbers are. The problem isn't in exactly what the numbers are. The problem is in the perception. It's what people perceive the condition to be. Because however people perceive conditions, they begin to conduct themselves that way. And if you begin to conduct yourself that way, that's why you hear us talking about that. Nobody wants to use the word recession because it will become self-fulfilling. And so a lot of talk is taking place because people are trying to keep people's nerves calm. Now, it means that we all have roles to play in this. And the reason I'm out of order is because I didn't get to the session today. We've had votes this morning. We're going to be having votes in a few minutes. There's a debate going on down in Mississippi, and there will be a debate tonight in Mississippi. And some of us will be working late tonight. We'll be here tomorrow. I know you all will be here in session, but we'll be in session tomorrow on the Hill. We'll be voting tomorrow. And it could very well be that those people who expected me in Saginaw, Michigan on Sunday evening, I hope I get to Saginaw because we may be here. I see Michigan over there. We may be here. Now, let me tell you what has happened. I'll make 2 points here as I thank Dale and the foundation, Dr. Scott, and all others here. When I was a college student at South Carolina State, I was very active in the so-called student movement, having been part of the group that 7 of us organized the first sit-ins in South Carolina. And the last time I went to jail was in Columbia, South Carolina. It was an arrest that resulted in those of you who went to law school and used the casebook method. You probably studied a case called Edwards against South Carolina. It was the landmark breach of the peace case. It was the one case that the Supreme Court decided that it would use to draw guidelines so that southern states could not be using breach of the peace statutes in order to arrest people, convict them, and give them arrest records, as we're doing now with other drug legislation. That night, as we sat in jail back in Columbia, back in it was March of 1961, I had decided that day that I was not going to jail. I dressed up in a three-piece suit. I was going to go down and I was going to participate in the march. But as soon as they told us to turn around, we were going to get back in our car and go back to Orangeburg. Well, I was leading a group of high school students that day who had never marched before and had never went to jail before, and it was a kind of exciting idea to them. And so when we got down to the State House, and Chief of SLED at that time, J.P. Strom, walked up to us and said, "Clyburn, y'all going to have to turn around. This is as far as y'all are going to be allowed to go." When I turned around to tell the students it was time for to go back, they said, "Oh, no, hell no. We ain't going back. We going inside this State House today." I knew then that I was in trouble, and of course, in a couple of hours, I was in jail. That night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm making a point here that I think is very, very important. That night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, as we lay there in the basement of the jail, they had put us on the rifle range. They had sent out to Fort Jackson. They got all these cots, these canvas field cots, and had them all lined up on the rifle range, and we were all laying there. 2 o'clock in the morning. I was getting very anxious, and one of those high school students came up to me and says, "Clyburn, I thought we were going to get out of jail." I said, "Yes, we are going to get out." He said, "When?" I said, "Well, Dr. Newman," Ida Quincy Newman, some of you all may remember him, said, "Dr. Newman is out there raising the bail money. And as soon as he gets the bail money raised, we'll all get out of jail." Well, he walked away. Came back a little while later. He said, "Clyburn, who did you say was out there raising the bail money?" I said, "Dr. Newman." He said, "Well, is he that little man with the goatee?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, he's back over in that corner over there." Now, it was 3 days later before we got out of jail. And that little olive green three-piece suit that I had on that day, I never put it on again. I stayed in there for 3 days. But I learned a very important lesson on that day. And the lesson is this: we all have roles to play. We all have roles to play. There are roles that you can play that I can't play. As a member of Congress, as a legislator, there are roles that I can play that you can't play. And we will get these environmental issues, we will get these energy issues, we will get these economic issues solved if we all play our roles as best as we possibly can. We will be confused, and we will not get these things done if we keep meddling in other people's roles. I want y'all to just remember that, because I'm going to tell you, I have seen it too many times. One of the biggest problems that we have on Capitol Hill today is when you have these fights, committee fights, over jurisdiction. Whose jurisdiction this is. Which committee or subcommittee is best to address this issue or that issue. That is why the only way we have been able to get going on environmental issues is through executive orders. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. We have never been able to come together and pass good environmental justice legislation through the United States Congress because we can't get the roles squared away. And so, but for executive orders, we would not be this far along. Now, the problem we've got is executive orders rely upon who the executive is. If you get a statute, get it in law, you got a shot. But if an election goes wrong or go the way that may not be favorable to those issues that we are concerned about, then we will have what we're having now. No enforcement of the executive orders, no putting in place of policies and procedures, just laissez-faire kind of activities, and that's what gets us into these kinds of issues. Now, the only way you get around these issues is what Dell is doing now, and that's to empower the rank and file. You got to go right by some of this. You've got to use this technology, Avoice or Avoice, however, I don't get mixed up in all this technology. I'm a little better than, I don't know all the technology. But I do know how to send out emails, and I know how to read them. And that sort of thing. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we can't be laissez-faire about this. We've got to get actively engaged, and we've got to use these partnerships. We've got to use the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, Dell. We have got to get information out to people as best we possibly can, because we never know what result the election will yield. I don't care what you may think or how you may feel. I have been around long enough to know. We had serious meetings this morning. Serious meetings starting at 9:45. I would not have missed this brain trust were these meetings not so serious. And these meetings are serious because irrespective of all that you hear, we spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill reading the tracking polls and reading what people are saying and reading all of these results that are coming in. And let me tell you, it is as good of an effort as ours are on these issues of cleaning up communities, making sure that environmental laws are fair to all communities. Our position on these issues, our position is not currently the majority position in the United States Congress. Now, that may sound strange to you, but I'm telling you, it is not the majority position in the United States Congress. If it were, we would have the statutes that you need. There are significant forces that we are up against. Now, I'm going to close with this, and I know that you're probably expected to hear something different from me, but I am what I am. About 2 weeks ago, I was out in California, and I was with a meeting of corporate directors. These were basically African Americans who continued to sit on big corporate boards. In fact, one of them in that meeting was Robert Harris. Was Robert Harris at the meeting today? Harris was here? Well, he was one of the people in this meeting. Everybody was down. People were down in the dumps. Over 200 people, two of the wealthiest people in this country who helped to make great policy decisions, just down and out because of the mood of the country. So when I got home to South Carolina, usually when I get home after 10 or 12 days, my wife's got this little long list, just a litany of things that I have said that she disagrees with, or something I have done that she thinks was stupid. A little list of what I need to say to Barack Obama, or what I need to say to Nancy Pelosi, or what I may need to say to some other of my colleagues. She's got it all written down with their name sitting right by it. Here's what was so stupid about this, that, and the other. When I got home 2 weeks ago, there was no list. No list. And she didn't even talk to me about politics. I knew then that something was bad, wrong. I mean, when I ain't catching hell in my house, something's wrong. I don't know about y'all. So I decided that I'd better get away from politics for a while. So I decided to turn on the television and watch a football game. Now, some of y'all may remember this game. Saturday before last, University of South Carolina playing Georgia. Georgia at the time was number 2 in the country. And South Carolina's always got a little way of disrupting Georgia's march to a championship. And so I thought this might be an afternoon to watch South Carolina once again disrupt Georgia's march. Now, around the second quarter of the game, a referee made a call, which I thought was just a bad call. A little while later, another call went against us and in favor of Georgia. And I knew then, I said, everything is bad. Politics is bad. My wife ain't talking to me. Now the referee making all these calls against my team. We got to the last 2 minutes, and the score was 14-7 in favor of Georgia. 2 minutes left to play, and we got the ball. South Carolina's got the ball first and goal on the 3-yard line. And just as we expected, the ball went to our best back. He politely fumbled into the end zone. Georgia covered the ball, touched back, and we lost the game by 1 touchdown. And I sat there and I said, those damn referees. If those referees had not made those bad calls, we would not have been in position. But then I started thinking. I said, what if we had decided to take the referees off the field after a couple of calls went against us? What kind of game would we have had if we had tried to play the second half without referees? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is what is happening to us in this country. We are afraid of the food that we are buying out of the supermarkets because we now know that less than 3% of the food that you purchase in the supermarket is being inspected because we have taken all of the inspectors out of the Department of Agriculture. That's what we're doing. We now know that the toys that are coming into this country for our children to play with are toxic. And we're afraid to purchase these toys because we've taken all of the inspectors out of the Department of Consumer Affairs, and nobody is expecting the products that's coming in the country. What's happening on Wall Street is because nobody was inspecting. No referees were on the field. Nobody was looking over their shoulders of the bankers in this country. And that's what is happening to environmental conditions in this country. There aren't any referees. We don't have the people that we need to oversee the environmental conditions that we have in this country. Just ask the people who used to work and some who still work at EPA. That's what is happening in this country. And so that's why this kind of empowerment is so important. We got to empower people at the grassroots level to begin to take some of this into their own hands and know what is happening to them and know how to fight these. We've got to get them the language as well as the process for them to begin to do what is necessary. We've got to put referees back on the field. If we don't put them in striped shirts, let's put them on the field in people's homes, in their living rooms, in their kitchens, so they will be empowered to go out and take some of this stuff in their own hands. That's what this is all about. And that is what it's going to take to change the direction of this country. We're going to have to put referees back on the field. And thank you all so much for volunteering for the positions.